Our next one, we've got the Bears traveling to NOLA to take on the Saints.
Man, oh man, well, it's a seven and a half point favorite for the Saints, right? I think the Bears will cover. I think they'll lose. They'll definitely lose for sure. But Saints, they've always been up and down. I feel like, and I know with this whole thing about Tower Badgett and everything, and he's on the road. He's a rookie on the road. Like I'm not expecting to. And he's going against a pretty. They're a nice veteran, I think, defense there with the Saints. They've had some ups and downs, but they do have some playmakers, and I think they'll be able to get to Tyson Badgett a little bit, get him a little bit more uncomfortable. Derek Carr just has like the worst record against the spread too, so I think that's like another thing as a favorite. Like I forgot the exact numbers on there, but he has a pretty terrible record again as a favorite. So yeah, against the spread, I should say. So 7.5, yeah, I'll definitely pick. I think the Bears will cover that, but with this whole new team, I think with getting Montez Sweat, I think that's another thing too. It's like, was he really worth a second rounder when Chase Young, they were able to, the 49ers were able to kind of get him, maybe for a 1-year rental to see if they're actually able to sign him or whatever. But yeah, there's just been a lot of things to talk about there. At least for this game, I think Tyson Badgett, he'll make enough like non-stupid plays and then kind of keep him in the game a little bit. But yeah, I think Derek Carr, that offense, I think they'll be able to move the ball enough against this Bears defense is still trying to figure it out a little bit. So,
yeah, I'm not sure how involved Sweat will be here in the first game. I'd be surprised if he's playing more than like 50% of the snaps or anything like that. But yeah, definitely, high price to pay for a guy in his walk year. I think the Niners, like you're mentioning, gave up a third for Chase Young. So like we got, a little bit shorted there. I feel like Poles is really not showing that he has like, I like the plan and I'm going to stick with my confidence in Poles to build something here, kind of moving into year 3. But like some of his calls have been a little bit suspect at this point, with trades and then, subsequent drafts, even though I like the blueprint. Some of the decisions along that path have been kind of confusing, and I think what Bears, absolutely need to do is extend Sweat now. I mean, it becomes clear that is a priority, but if they don't, they would just put a franchise tag on him. So you're paying him, $20 million or something for, being one of the top DNs in the league. So is that fair market value? Like probably for a team with one of the worst lines in the league, but I guess specific to this game and kind of looking at all the flaws the Bears have, like they're not playing to win football games right now. If anything, they're going to try to do the opposite. Poles got up there on a presser, this week and basically like lauded Eberflus and his ability to coach, his determination and, just, focus during practices and stuff, trying to get the best out of all these guys. I mean, to me, I would keep them in the hole as long as you're losing ball games because, why disturb that? Why bring a new coach in who might, have a different game plan or can figure things out in a different way to kind of like give you that ability to win some games. So maybe this is all just like posturing and stuff, but the way I see it, I don't know, like we've been a little bit confused on like what you want to do with Justin Fields once he comes back and is healthy. I try to get as many more looks out of Fields as I can to know what I want to do going into the offseason. But, with Badgett on the road against the Saints team that's starting to string it together, needs to string it together to assert itself in the South, like they're getting this W at home. Like this is absolutely a bunny for them. And, if they lose, then we'll be talking about the Saints a lot more with question marks going forward.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Simply put. But I mean, yeah, this whole Bears team, I think it's like there are question marks for sure with Brian Poles. He hasn't been perfect. He definitely has showcased like I guess a learning curve a little bit of being a GM and such. So there is all that. Like I don't know if his whole thing was like, hey, I just want to like draft people like and see kind of how that goes. I don't think he knows. I think his biggest weakness, in my opinion, is he doesn't necessarily know how to value like non-draft players. So like players on current rosters, such as the Claypool trade, and then this whole I guess Montez Sweat thing. It's like Sweat's a good player, right? I don't equivocate these trades. I don't equivocate the Chase Claypool trade with the Montez Sweat. Sweat's an established player. He's an established player in his prime. Edge position there. We can always talk about I guess win rates and stuff like that. I think he's like maybe like the 50th rank or somewhere like that, I think is what I saw, whereas Chase Young was like maybe top 10 a little bit. So yeah, you can like talk about that, but then Sweat has the sacks, he has the tackles, he actually plays. He's not as injury prone, I guess, as Chase Young has been. So there's some merit, I think, towards at least that trade being a little bit different, but yeah, he just hasn't been good at evaluating those little things. And then yeah, what's happened, I think, with Roquan Smith, and then now, I guess with Jalen Johnson, although it sounds like Jalen Johnson, at least they're not going to trade him quite yet and see if they can sign him maybe in the offseason. So hopefully that does happen. But yeah, like for whatever reason, like he's not really good at figuring out like, okay, these players, they're worth this amount and we're going to assign that dollar value. And that makes total sense there. He's definitely been a lot more frugal than I think I would have liked. It's like, yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have kept Roquan maybe? And I understand that they got like Edmonds and Edwards too, kind of like almost for the same price as like Roquan, but none of those players have really done too much at the linebacker position. Whereas Roquan, he's like number one in terms of I guess linebackers in the NFL basically right now, or maybe top three at least. So I don't know. Yeah, I just have a little bit of like, what exactly are you trying to do? Like, are you just trying to clean house with the players a little bit? Versus, which, hey, that's totally fine. I get you can't necessarily say that, but yeah, just this whole evaluation for the current roster, trying to put a dollar amount there, and then doing some of these trades. I think that's where he struggles on drafting wise and maneuvering the draft. I think he's good. Could he have gotten like maybe some different players here and there? Sure, I think that's set for every draft, but for the most part, I'm fairly, I guess, content with like Brisker, Kyle Gordon a little bit. I know there's Darnell Wright and Jalen Carter. I know that whole fiasco and everything. Like, would have been nice to have Jalen Carter, who's I think he's the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah, probably right now, especially with that weak defensive line right now. So, but I get it. It's like, yeah, Carter was a little bit of a wild card. I get that. This is like your first round pick here. You might as well like have a kind of a sure thing with Darnold, right? Protect Justin Fields. I get it, but yeah, not completely happy though. Like not an A plus, maybe like I don't know, B minus maybe for Ryan Poles at the moment. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's confusing. I mean, he doesn't let the game kind of come to him. Like it feels like he's forcing a lot of these moves.
Mm-hmm.
He's forcing the tackle because we need a tackle. He's now forcing the end because we look like shit on the defensive line. It's like, you know, going back to that draft. I mean, this trade for Montez Sweat to give up a second, like we went out and got extra draft capital because we need a full 53-man team, and you go out and you trade the second, you bring in Sweat. But what are you saying with that trade? You're saying that I failed with the Dexter and the Pickens draft picks because this line still is crap, and this isn't going to be the thing that gets me, fired. So I'm going to make sure that we have, guys now in those positions. And he's like, it feels like he's almost scrambling. Like he is scrambling to kind of patch holes where, they could have been plugged, at least in theory. Like you bring in Jalen Carter. He's not going to be the best defensive tackle in the league in year one, but you got Jalen Carter there. You have the Claypool pick in the second round of last year's draft. You're able to, maybe it's bolster another edge position, or, maybe you're using that on a more elite cornerback or whatever it could have been. The thing with the Claypool decision, like when the trade was made, that guy was having character, durability, and production concerns in Pittsburgh. Like I saw clips of Tomlin like pretty much clowning him as a player on the team. Like, Tomlin's no nonsense attitude, and Clay just being like goofy Clay, like not working hard, this and that. And I'm glad we traded him. I'm glad, get whatever we could to get him off the team because I think that mattered a ton for culture. But again, I like the blueprint. I like everything in theory. Some of the trades have been good. I mean, the DJ Moore trade is an absolute slam dunk. I'm never going to question that trade. That was a genius type of move. I think, again, we have a couple of picks here in the first round. I want to see that baby churned as much as possible because we can't just continue to trade high value draft capital for guys that we have to pay, the league maximum for. Like you were saying with Roquan, why get rid of Roquan when you're just going to go out and buy, two very pricey linebackers in a league that doesn't value that position as much anymore? It's just like some of this stuff honestly could be Eberflus influenced because he saw the success of a guy like Shaq Leonard on the Colts, Okereke, other guys that like stepped up on the Colts, EJ Speed, guys who he like maybe loved coaching, but like that's like 1990s, 2000s football. Like we need to evolve into, they've tried to do that by bolstering up the secondary, but it's like now you're at the point like you got to go pay Jalen Johnson probably max money, and you were dangling him at the trade deadline. I'm kind of maybe glad it didn't work out because we don't have like a lot of established guys there in the secondary we can like bank on as being starters, but it's just a complete mess. I don't I don't think I'm like the perfect guy either to say like, okay, give me the worst team in the league and I'm going to try to figure this out in a couple of years. Like, so we have to give them some grace here, but like, we really just need to see what happens, with Fields, how they move forward and manage that, see what else you've got left in him. If he's a guy you're in with or out with. And then from there, this draft for me is all about like maximizing that draft capital to its greatest extent. I want to see that again, those picks I want to see churned as much as possible if need be, trade down the board, gobble up more capital for years later, because you're short 45 guys. You're short 45 guys at this point that I could, trust to play football in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, right, they have, I think somebody said, like $100 some odd plus $1 million to spend basically this offseason, albeit, they're going to have to fill in a lot of roster spots there in terms of the contracts and all that. And then, the two top, I think right now it's the number 2 pick and number 3 pick, at least, right now. So if they are able to trade back a little bit, I mean, I don't know. It's like I would like ideally, right, to have Marvin Harrison, right, Jr., and then maybe Olu Fashanu, or I have seen, I think, Dallas Turner, right, the edge rusher over there for Bama. I think he's been moving down a little bit. There's been inconsistency issues, right, I think kind of pop up. So, I do wonder if that might have played a little bit of a factor there in terms of for Ryan Poles, if he's like, you know what, like, we're probably going to be picking, two picks in the top 10, right? Maybe we do want to trade back, make sure that we do get that edge rusher. Maybe we do overpay for him, with a second rounder and kind of force our hand a little bit there. That could be, I think, what might have happened there. But then it's like, you still got to fill out the rest of the defensive line. We were last in pressure, or we're still last in pressures right now. And, that's a big thing, especially in this, modern day age of, pass football. So I don't know. Yeah, there's still a lot of question marks there. But I mean, for me, it's like, if we are able to maybe trade back one of those picks, maybe it's like, okay, we do want to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Or, you know what? Hey, we already have DJ Moore. Maybe we're okay with our wide receiver core a little bit, and then shore up the line a little bit, with Fashanu, and then maybe we do get trade back a little bit and then get Dallas Turner or Jared Verse or something like that. So I don't know, a number of different things can be there, but to the point, I don't know, Ryan Poles, I feel like, is very mixed baggage of like, what the hell are you trying to do exactly here?
Yeah. You just can't play both sides of the fence. So you can't go after gobbling up draft capital and then be on the other side trading some of that capital to like bring in established guys who can win now. You just can't go in two separate direct, like pick a side. And I think everybody would love the side of be patient, build something, bring in as many established, how would I put it? Like utilize that draft capital, bring in as many established, like top end, draft picks here, build that out. You can see what works. You can see which talent is really, buying in and being effective. And then you supplement that by bringing in, free agents, and you go out and make maybe a strategic trade, but maybe like instead of going at the top end of your draft capital pool, like maybe pull some of those fifth, sixth, sevens and go after, some veterans that are on struggling teams and they're in their walk years. Then you're the ones who are being savvy in that way. You're kind of like scouting for, what you could maybe re-sign in that offseason. So I guess that's the biggest thing. It's like, I like Sweat. I like Sweat as a guy. It's just, we're not going to win next year. Like, we are not going to win next year based on what we've seen so far this one. So it's like, man, I don't know. Like, we're just setting the clock a little bit too soon in some of these bigger end moves, the higher end moves.
I mean, Justin Fields, I think he still has 1 year after this, right? I think it's an option, I believe, or some sort. So, like, what do you think? Do we give Justin Fields one more shot, load up on some other positions, not take Caleb Williams or Drake May out of UNC, like just take up some of those position players and kind of see what happens? Or what do you think?
Honestly, I just don't have an answer for that right now because he's injured. He's coming back maybe in a couple weeks. I'd love to see how this year ends. I want to watch him play. If he can ball out like he did last year in the second half and he just does that again, then for me, it's a coaching thing. You've got to make a coaching move that'll bring in a guy who's innovative, who's, offensive minded, somebody who can really get the most out of Justin if he's showing that he has the talent. If he comes back and is just kind of middle of the road to below average, like, yeah, like take the option and keep him on the roster. But like, yeah, you're being aggressive with that first round pick. Like, if Caleb is the guy and it's possible that we can go out and get him, like, we'll probably have to. And if he's off the board or whatever, it just doesn't work out in our way, like, utilize those picks to the best of your ability. If you need to trade down a little bit, trade down to get more capital and go check out what's on the free agent market. If it's somebody who's just like a stable game manager, like we've been talking about for a bridge year, like have him push Justin as far as possible in year, this last, year coming up on his contract. And again, if Fields is faltering, trade him or, go to that game manager and just ride it out. Like, we're at that point where anything's possible. I'd be open. I'd be like eyes wide open here, like in evaluating everybody. And again, my eyes on like building a 53-man team. So I'm not worried about one or two high-end guys. I'm worried about 53 that can play football like together.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the biggest is like, I'm not a big Eberflus fan. I don't know too many Bears fans that are. It's like that ought to be the number one priority right now is finding a new head coach, in my opinion of things, because he seems like a nice guy and all that. And then Ryan Poles keeps on trying to say the nice thing there, but I'm like, he's just not cutting it. I'm not seeing any progress. He has the worst record of a Bears coach like ever. So like, it's one thing if it's like, okay, you have a couple of a bad season here, right? But like, I don't know, the team's not bringing it. The team seems lost. Obviously, all the struggles that Justin Fields hasn't progressed. It's like, I don't know, what more can you say? There's just not like too many positive outlooks at the moment. So
yeah, he may be a great coordinator. He may be a great defensive coordinator, a great positional coach. I mean, he may motivate guys in a lot of ways, but when it comes to, day-to-day game management, understanding his roster, like maybe those aren't his strengths, and that's okay. But yeah, Poles at this point with that presser, he's gotta be positive about him. If you're not gonna, pull the trigger on letting him go now, like you got to keep saying the positive thing, and I think it's all just like a little bit of gaslighting, but hey, that's Chicago. We're used to it. We'll see where things end up. But yeah, man, this is the joy of being a Bears fan.
Bring in Rich Pistachio. Let's bring him in. Let's bring the special teams guy in there.
Let's
go. Get it. Yeah, let's
go.
Let's take the special teams guy from the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, let's ruin their lives.